Now the great thing about these cars is that they sell basically every panel in the world for them. So for this front wheel well section, like you can see here, they'll sell this whole metal piece, and they even have it where it wraps around to the bolt holes. So that helps you, that will help you a lot. For most years, that'll work just fine. Now you got the rear, the shock tower area. They basically have a universal fit piece of sheet metal that will go over this, that you would have to cut out basically and put it in. It basically lines up okay. You're gonna have to finagle a little bit. You're gonna have to bend it. You're gonna have to maybe put some heat on it to make the metal fit right. You know, especially on these earlier cars, these universal fit pieces of sheet metal just don't fit right when you get them right out of the box. So you're gonna have to, you know, work with that. Same with the rear bumper bracket mounts. You know, they sell two different styles you can get. They have the later styles that had the bigger bumpers that you can put on these, or you go with the earliest style. And usually they give you either this whole piece, or they're going to give you this this triangular section right here, which is usually the better way to go, because then that at least gives you the back wall. So keep an eye out for these earlier bugs. 64 and earlier Beetles, okay, had the T-handle, okay, like that. That's what opened the lid. 64 was the last year of the T-handle, and what happens is that T-handle, that latches into this catch right here. The 50s bugs had this H pattern style rear apron. I see a lot of guys where they replace the rear apron and they have the aftermarket, and the only real aftermarket one that I've seen that's affordable that most, you know, places keep in stock are for 65 and later. So they don't match, and you'll see the guys, they kept the earlier lid, and the earlier lid with the T-handle will not work unless they saved this piece off of the old apron. They'd have to cut this off and then re-weld this on to the new apron for that T-handle to work with that. The only other way that it'll work is if they convert the lid to take the push button, which is similar on the 67. Right down here. So the 67, this is a one-year only style type apron, but the aftermarket apron kind of has a similar latch on it like that, a catch that has to hook in to that. The T-handle will not work with something like this. So keep an eye out for things like that. Usually, like I said, the 50s bugs, I believe it was even 60 and earlier, still had this H-style apron. H is a very popular, very sought-after apron when it comes to buying these earlier bugs. If you see no H and you see a different style catch on it, sometimes they might just re-weld a catch, like I said, on the new aftermarket piece. But SIP1, from what I see right now, they are selling the correct style H apron for front and rear for Beetles in this era, but they're costly. They're probably about $300-400 just for the apron, as opposed to spending maybe $30 to $50 on the aftermarket. Now, other things to look out for are the heat channels. Like you said, like I said before, if you have to change the heat channels, that is a job. That is not for the faint of heart. I mean, I do recommend picking up the Bug Me Video DVD series on heater channel replacement and floor pan replacement if you plan on doing a full restoration on your car. If you're going to do those areas that you have to cut out, I do recommend doing it with the body off, like what we were doing here. It is just the job is gonna be done right. But on these earlier cars, especially the oval windows, even the earlier 60s cars and whatnot, the heater channels, the aftermarket heater channels that they sell on the market today are not so shaped so correctly. You know, let me rephrase that. They're just not shaped as the original. So you might have to do some modification. For this 53, we are actually going through a special source that I found on the Samba.com, which is a great VW source. This guy, his name is, if you go to ClassicFab.com, this guy is doing early style heater channels, floor pans, and even fenders. So these early style heater channels, if you see here, let's see if I can get under here. Okay, look at that rot. So you see we got to definitely change this heater channel. You want to check here, actually, when you're outside the car and you're peeking in, see if you can pull up the carpet and take a peek. This is another area where the heat channels usually rot. So definitely take a peek there and just watch out for that. But as you can see, look where the heater outlet is. It's up here. And it's probably a better shot right here. You just, aftermarket heater channels will not have this correct. They're going to have the heater outlet probably over here, and then you'd have to modify it. But the problem is that these heater channels on the earlier ones, they're rounded, as you can see here. Most of the aftermarkets make their stampings kind of universal to the later bugs, and there's squared off sections here. If you're not so anal retentive about that, you really don't care about that, oh, the carpet's going to cover it, then don't worry about it. For me, I just want the shape to be right, so if someone opens the door and they're going to inspect the car, it's got to definitely have the right shape. You could use the aftermarket heater channel, cut out that square, and then if you're good with welding and good with metal, then you can reshape it to look like this. So there's a little finagling you got to do, but I went through a guy, classicfab.com, and we're still waiting for those heater channels to come in, and he does the correct stampings all the way around. They're not cheap, I'll tell you right that. With shipping and everything, it was about 500 bucks. So, but this is a 53 bug, and I want it to be correct as much as possible because it's a rare one. Got is the front firewall section. A lot of times, if the heater channels are rotted, the front firewall down below here is also rotted because, I mean, it all makes sense. They're all kind of connected here. We bought an aftermarket front firewall section. Again, it's a universal piece. They try to make these pieces to span through all the years, not just for your particular year. Now, the early year bugs, they had the bright switch down on the floor, and you had to actually hit it with your foot to turn the brights on or off. Now, if you notice here, there's an indentation here. That's original, and that was strong condition. The aftermarket piece here, the front firewall, did not have this indentation. Yeah, you could just, you know, self-tap it in onto the straight. It was a straight piece. I wanted to keep this because I'm silly like that, and we just actually kept that in place, and then just cut it out of this, and then re-weld it on. So, again, if you're good with metal, you can do these sort of things. If you're not, you got to take this into consideration that you got to job it out, and that's where your costs go up.